Discipline is the bridge between your excuses and your potential. You don't need more motivation. You need to master the art of doing what you don't want to do, again and again until it becomes who you are. Every day your mind negotiates with weakness. Every day you either win that negotiation or lose it. This is not a book about feeling ready, it's a manual for taking action when you're not. If you want the life no one else has, you must do what no one else will. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop waiting to feel ready. You've been told to wait. Wait for the right time. Wait for the right feeling. Wait until you're ready. But readiness is a myth. It doesn't come knocking. It doesn't arrive with clarity or comfort or certainty. Readiness is the story your mind tells you to protect your comfort zone. You think you need to feel confident before you act. You think you need motivation before you move. But you don't. You don't need motivation. You need movement. Because the truth is this: motivation is an emotion. Discipline is a decision. An emotion is temporary. It rises. It fades. It shifts with the weather, with your mood, with your environment. But a decision to act, that's permanent. That's how change begins. You have a choice. Every single day you have a choice, to wait for the feeling or to build the momentum. And every time you wait, you reinforce weakness. Every time you act, you reinforce strength. That's the key. That's the entire difference between the average and the elite. Average people wait for readiness. Elite performers act through resistance. You don't wait for readiness. You create momentum. The Navy SEALs have a phrase, embrace the suck. It means don't wait for comfort. Don't wait for ideal conditions. Don't wait for your body or your mind to agree. They train in cold, in darkness, in chaos, because that's where their edge is built. During BUD/S training, the most brutal stage of becoming a SEAL, there's a bell sitting in the middle of the compound. If you're tired, if you're done, if you've had enough, you can ring that bell. You can quit. Thousands of men have walked by that bell. Hundreds have rung it. But the ones who don't? They aren't ready either. They're just committed. That's the secret no one tells you. Nobody feels ready. Not the athlete. Not the CEO. Not the soldier. Not the creator. They all feel fear. They all feel hesitation. The only difference is what they do next. You have a choice. To surrender to hesitation or to move in spite of it. You tell yourself you'll start when you feel prepared. When you've planned everything. When you've got the perfect setup. But perfection is procrastination in disguise. Preparation becomes avoidance. And avoidance becomes identity. You don't need to be ready. You need to be willing. Willing to start. Willing to fail. Willing to look foolish. The truth is, nobody is watching you as closely as you think. Nobody's waiting for your perfect moment. They're too busy waiting for their own. So stop waiting for permission. You don't need their approval. You need execution. Readiness is the comfort zone dressed in logic. It sounds smart. It sounds responsible. But it's poison. Because the comfort zone will justify anything to keep you still. You'll say, I'm just not ready. You'll say, I need more time. You'll say, when I feel motivated, I'll start. But time doesn't make you ready. Action does. Here's the truth. Action creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. And confidence creates momentum. That's the chain of progress. So if you want to feel ready, start moving. If you want motivation, take action. Action comes first. Feeling follows. Every time you move, you send a message to your subconscious mind. I'm the kind of person who acts. Every time you hesitate, you send the opposite message. I'm the kind of person who waits. Which identity are you reinforcing? That's the real question. Because readiness is not about time. It's about identity. You either identify as someone who acts, or someone who avoids. You don't rise when you feel inspired. You rise when you feel responsible. You don't move when it's easy. You move because it's necessary. You don't need readiness. You need responsibility. That's what separates the great from the mediocre. They don't let emotion dictate execution. They let purpose drive action. Look at anyone who has achieved greatness. Not one of them felt ready. Steve Jobs wasn't ready when he started Apple in a garage. Michael Jordan wasn't ready when he was cut from his high school team. Elon Musk wasn't ready when he risked everything on SpaceX. But they acted anyway. Because discipline doesn't care about readiness. Discipline only cares about direction. You can't think your way into confidence. You must act your way into it. And the first action is often small, embarrassingly small. But that's how momentum starts. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You take one step, then another, and soon the steps become rhythm. The rhythm becomes identity. You don't wait for readiness. You create momentum. So when your alarm goes off and your mind says, 5 more minutes, you act. When your goals seem too far and your energy too low, you act. When doubt whispers that you're not ready, you act. That's how you build the muscle of discipline. Not through grand gestures. Not through perfect plans. Through consistent defiance of hesitation. Every single time you act despite not feeling ready, you train your mind to trust action over emotion. You teach your body to move first, think later. And that's how discipline becomes instinct. Understand this. Readiness is not the signal to start. Starting is the signal to become ready. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the spark, the sign, the feeling. It's not coming. And that's okay. Because you don't need it. You don't need motivation. You need a decision. You don't need readiness. You need responsibility. You don't need the perfect time. You need this moment. Because this moment, right now, is the only moment you control. And what you do with it decides everything. So when your mind says, I'll start tomorrow, you respond, no. I start now. When fear says, you're not ready, you answer, I'll become ready by doing. When comfort says, wait until it feels right, you whisper back, it never will. That's the mindset of mastery. That's the discipline blueprint. You have to act before you believe. You have to move before you feel strong. You have to build momentum before motivation arrives. So stop waiting. Stop negotiating. Stop asking for readiness. You don't wait for readiness. You create momentum. Because once you move, the hesitation dies. Once you act, the doubt fades. Once you begin, the fear loses its grip. You are not waiting for the right moment. The right moment is waiting for you to begin. You've learned how to act without waiting for the feeling. Now let's take it deeper. Let's destroy the one voice inside you that keeps you from moving forward. Chapter 2. Kill the negotiator in your mind. There's a voice inside your head. It sounds friendly. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like it wants what's best for you. But it doesn't. It's the voice of negotiation. The voice that bargains for comfort. The voice that slowly kills your potential one compromise at a time. You know that voice? The one that whispers, 5 more minutes. The one that says, you've done enough for today. The one that excuses weakness with logic. That voice is not your friend. That voice is the enemy. Because every time you negotiate with comfort, you lose respect for yourself. And every time you lose respect for yourself, discipline dies a little more. You have a choice. You can kill the negotiator, or you can let it run your life. Let's be clear, every person who's ever achieved anything great has fought that inner negotiator. It's universal. It's ancient. And it never shuts up. But the difference between the disciplined and the defeated is simple. The disciplined don't negotiate. They decide. When your alarm rings and you think, I'll just sleep 5 more minutes, you've already lost the first battle of the day. You've told your mind that comfort comes before commitment. And your mind remembers that. Every 5 more minutes isn't just lost time. It's a message. A message to yourself that your word means nothing. When you say, I'll start after I eat, or I'll go to the gym when I feel better, you're teaching your brain that emotion has authority. But emotion doesn't deserve authority. Discipline does. You have to kill the negotiation before it starts. That's the key. The negotiation begins the moment your brain senses discomfort. It starts whispering alternatives. It starts crafting excuses that sound intelligent. It says, you'll be more productive if you rest now. It says, you've worked hard, you deserve a break. But what it's really saying is, let's stay weak. And every time you listen, you reinforce weakness. Every time you obey comfort, you strengthen the wrong identity. Understand this. You are building a character through every micro decision. You're either building a leader or a liar, a warrior or a worrier, a commander or a slave to comfort. You don't need more time management. You need self-management. And that starts with one rule: kill the negotiation. When the first decision of the day. When your alarm goes off, get up. No delay. No bargaining. When it's time to work, start. No scrolling. No debate. When you said you'd go to the gym, go. No emotion. No excuses. Every time you act instantly, you teach your brain who's in charge. That's self-respect in motion. That's discipline embodied. Think about it. If a soldier on the battlefield stopped to negotiate every command, chaos would follow. If a pilot questioned every flight instruction, lives would be lost. You are the commander of your own life. When you hesitate, you create chaos within your own mission. The mind loves comfort. It will always try to pull you back into safety. But safety is not growth. Safety is the slow death of potential. So when you feel that pull, recognize it for what it is: the negotiation. You must treat that negotiation like an intruder. You don't debate with an intruder. You eliminate it. That's how you protect your purpose. Look around you. The world is full of talented people who lost to the negotiation. They had ideas. They had dreams. They had potential. But they waited until they felt ready. They compromised. They delayed. They negotiated their future into nothing. You're not like them. You're here because you want mastery. You're here because you're tired of the internal back and forth. You're here to silence the noise. That's the mission. Silence the negotiator. Strengthen the executor. Every morning, every choice, every decision, you are faced with a crossroads. Negotiate with weakness or command yourself to act. This isn't about perfection. This is about pattern. The pattern of instant, decisive action. The pattern of saying, "I said I would, so I will." That's how you build integrity. That's how you build strength. You don't become disciplined by motivation. You become disciplined by mastering the moment of hesitation. When the negotiator says, "Just one day off won't hurt," you respond, "One day off becomes one habit lost." When it says, "You've earned a break," you respond, "I'll rest when the work is done." When it says, "It's not the right time," you respond, "There is no right time. There is only now." That's the mindset of execution. That's the mindset of control. Because discipline is not built in grand moments of triumph. It's built in the small, silent decisions that no one sees. The first decision of the day sets the tone for the rest of the day. Win that one and you win momentum. Lose it and everything that follows is compromised. It starts with the alarm clock. It starts with the diet. It starts with the promise you make to yourself and keep. When you get up the moment the alarm goes off, you prove to yourself that you command your actions. You teach yourself that emotion doesn't get a vote. You tell the negotiator, "I don't bargain with weakness." And here's the secret. Once you kill the negotiation early, the rest of the day becomes easier. You've already built the momentum. You've already won the first battle. And that victory compounds. Momentum is power. Momentum silences doubt. Momentum destroys hesitation. You don't wait for motivation. You win the negotiation. You don't let your emotions dictate your behavior. You dictate your emotions through behavior. That's the discipline blueprint. You must become ruthless with your inner dialogue. You must replace negotiation with command. You must replace hesitation with execution. From this point forward, every time your mind offers you comfort, recognize it as the voice of weakness trying to pull you back. And every time you refuse to negotiate, you reinforce strength. Kill the negotiation. Win the first decision of the day. Because if you win the first one, the rest will follow. That's how soldiers train. That's how champions prepare. That's how leaders rise. You are in control. Not your feelings. Not your fears. Not your fatigue. Every no to comfort is a yes to progress. Every moment of decisiveness builds the architecture of discipline. Every time you choose movement over negotiation, you multiply self-respect. That's how discipline becomes identity. That's how the negotiator dies. So tomorrow morning when your alarm rings, don't think. Get up. Stand tall. And say to yourself, "I don't negotiate with weakness." Because that's who you are now. a commander of your own life, a master of your own mind, a builder of unstoppable momentum. You've silenced the negotiator. Now it's time to understand what happens next, when discipline becomes your identity. You've won the first decision of the day. Now let's talk about how those small wins shape who you become. Chapter 3, The Discipline Loop, Action-Proof Identity. You don't become disciplined by believing you are. You become disciplined by proving it, again and again. That's the loop. Action. Proof. Identity. It starts with what you do. Not what you think. Not what you say. What you do. Every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. That's not motivation. That's math. Each action is a tally mark. Each repetition is evidence. And evidence builds identity. You say you want to be focused? Then prove it by turning off the distraction. You say you want to be strong? Then prove it by training when it hurts. You say you want to be disciplined? Then prove it by doing what you said you would do. Every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. That's the loop of transformation. It doesn't start with belief. It starts with behavior. You don't believe your way into a new identity. You act your way there. That's the secret most people miss. They want the identity first. They want to feel like the person before they act like the person. But it doesn't work that way. Action creates belief. Belief creates identity. And identity sustains action. That's the discipline loop. James Clear calls it identity-based habits. But it's older than that. It's how every warrior, every artist, every elite performer built mastery. They didn't wait to feel disciplined. They acted disciplined until discipline became who they were. Think about it. A writer doesn't become an author by believing they're talented. They become an author by writing every day whether they feel inspired or not. A soldier doesn't become resilient by telling himself he's strong. He becomes resilient by facing fear repeatedly until fear loses its power. Identity follows action, not the other way around. You have to stop saying, "I'm trying to be disciplined." You either are or you aren't. And the way you know is simple. Look at your actions. Your habits are your identity in motion. Your discipline is your belief system expressed through behavior. Every time you act, you cast a vote for a version of yourself. You're voting for discipline or for weakness, for consistency or for chaos, for mastery or for mediocrity. And here's the truth. One vote doesn't define you, but it counts. A single act of strength might not change your life, but it changes your direction. Because direction becomes destiny. That's the power of small, disciplined action. It compounds. It multiplies. It reshapes how you see yourself. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to start casting better votes. Consistently. Every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. Do you want to know why people quit? Because they think identity comes first. They think they have to believe before they begin. But belief doesn't lead to consistency, evidence does. You don't stay committed because you believe you can. You stay committed because you've proven you can. Proof builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. Identity sustains the next action. That's the loop. Action. Proof. Identity. And then repeat. Let's make it real. You wake up early one morning and work out. That's action. You finish and feel pride. That's proof. You say to yourself, "I'm the kind of person who follows through." That's identity. Then tomorrow the action gets easier. The proof gets stronger. The identity gets louder. You've just built momentum. And momentum doesn't come from emotion. It comes from evidence. You are not what you intend to do. You are what you repeatedly do. That's why the small disciplines matter more than the big declarations. Anyone can make promises. Few keep them when no one's watching. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you earn trust. And self-trust is the foundation of unstoppable discipline. It's not about perfection. It's about proof. It's about the micro-actions that reinforce who you're becoming. When you choose action over hesitation, you build proof. When you repeat that proof, you reinforce identity. When that identity strengthens, you stop relying on motivation. Because now it's just who you are. That's the goal. To make discipline your default. You don't have to think about brushing your teeth, you just do it. That's what discipline should feel like. Automatic, embedded, non-negotiable. At first it's hard. At first it feels like work. But repetition is the great transformer. Every time you repeat, you carve a new pattern into your brain. You create a new normal. This is neuroplasticity at work, your brain rewiring itself to match your behavior. And the more evidence you give it, the stronger that wiring becomes. That's why you don't need to believe in yourself at the start. You just need to take action once. Then again. Then again. The identity will catch up. You have to stop saying, "I'm not that kind of person." You are becoming that kind of person every time you act like it. You're not faking it, you're forging it. Discipline is self-forging. Action is the fire. Repetition is the hammer. And identity is the sword. You're not waiting for discipline to appear. You're building it through proof. Every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. So when you're tired, remember the loop. When you doubt yourself, remember the loop. When you feel like quitting, remember the loop. Action-proofed identity. That's the formula for every transformation. That's the foundation for every success story. The people who win aren't the ones who believe the most. They're the ones who act the most, even when belief is small. Because belief grows with proof. Your job isn't to feel ready. Your job is to collect proof until belief has no choice but to follow. So take the smallest action possible today. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's a vote for who you're becoming. Wake up early. Train when you don't feel like it. Speak with discipline. Follow through on your promises. Each time, you're proving to yourself that you can be trusted. And once you trust yourself, you'll never need external validation again. That's the end game. Not to feel motivated. Not to feel ready. But to become disciplined, automatically, consistently, permanently. You don't wait for a new identity. You build it through repetition. You sculpt it through action. Action creates proof. Proof creates belief. Belief creates identity. And identity creates unstoppable momentum. Every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. And soon you won't just be voting for that person. You'll be that person. That's the loop. That's the blueprint. And that's how transformation becomes permanent. You've built the foundation. You've learned how action shapes identity. Now it's time to protect that identity from sabotage by mastering the system that keeps you moving. You've proven who you can be. Now let's make sure your environment never lets you forget it. Chapter 4. Systems over feelings. Your feelings lie to you. Every single day. They tell you you're too tired. They tell you you've earned a break. They tell you it's not the right time. But feelings are unreliable. Systems never lie. If you rely on emotion, you will be inconsistent. If you rely on structure, you will be unstoppable. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. That's the truth every high performer understands. Goals are intentions. Systems are proof. You can have the biggest goal in the world, but if your system is weak, your execution will collapse the moment emotion fades. That's why discipline is built on structure, not mood. Kobe Bryant understood this better than anyone. He didn't wait for motivation to strike. He had a schedule. He had a process. He trained before sunrise because the system demanded it. The emotion didn't matter. At 4 a.m., when everyone else was asleep, Kobe was in the gym, sweating through the repetition. He didn't ask himself if he felt like it. He followed the plan. That's how legends are built, not on feelings but on frameworks. You have to understand this. Your brain loves emotion, but your future depends on consistency. Emotion says, "I don't feel like it today." System says, "It's 6 a.m., we train." Emotion says, "I'm overwhelmed." System says, "One task at a time." Emotion says, "I'll start when it feels right." System says, "The schedule decides." You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. You can't trust how you feel, but you can always trust the plan you designed when your mind was clear. That's the secret. Build a system when you're strong enough to ignore how you'll feel when you're weak. Because the system will protect you when motivation disappears. You don't need to feel like doing it. You just need to do it because the system says so. That's what elite performers understand. Discipline isn't a feeling, it's an operating system. Your system is your structure, your environment, your schedule, your rules. And when you build the right structure, action becomes automatic. Let's make this real. If you want to eat clean, don't rely on willpower. Design your system, prep your meals, remove the junk. Make the right choice the easy choice. If you want to train daily, don't ask yourself each morning whether you'll go. Put it on the calendar. Same time, same place. No debate. If you want to stay focused, don't fight distraction with emotion. Build a system, silence notifications, set boundaries, block time. Systems create consistency. Consistency creates progress. Progress creates confidence. Confidence fuels identity. That's the loop of mastery. You don't need to wake up inspired every day. You need a system that forces progress even on your worst days. When you have a strong system, you don't ask, "Do I feel like it?" You say, "It's time." Because systems don't care about your feelings. And that's why they work. Kobe didn't care if it was raining, if he was sore, or if he was tired. The system ran on schedule. The system made the decision before emotion ever entered the room. That's what you must build, a system that makes decisions for you. If your environment tempts you, change it. If your schedule is chaotic, structure it. If your plan depends on motivation, rebuild it. Because feelings are inconsistent. Systems are immortal. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Most people lose momentum not because they're lazy, but because they rely on willpower, the most fragile resource in the human mind. Willpower fades. Systems preserve energy. When your life is systemized, you conserve willpower for execution, not decision-making. That's why routines matter. That's why schedules matter. It's not about rigidity, it's about reliability. The more predictable your structure, the more unpredictable your results will seem to others. They'll call you driven. They'll call you obsessed. But you'll know the truth, you're just following your system. Here's how it works. Step 1, design the system. Choose your routine, your time, your process. Make it simple. Make it non-negotiable. Step 2, protect the system. Guard your schedule. Say no to anything that breaks it. Defend it like a soldier defends a mission. Step 3, trust the system. Don't question it daily. Don't tweak it endlessly. Just follow it until it becomes instinct. Once the system becomes habit, feelings lose their power. You'll still feel tired. You'll still feel doubt. But your actions will remain consistent. That's mastery. Discipline is not built on energy. It's built on architecture. That's why your environment must support your system. If your workspace distracts you, clean it. If your friends derail you, distance yourself. If your phone controls you, control it first. Your surroundings should make discipline easy and distraction expensive. The greatest performers build invisible systems around them. Rituals, routines, reminders, rules. That's what keeps them consistent long after motivation fades. You think they're superhuman. They're not. They're systematic. And that's what you must become. You must systemize your goals until action becomes reflex. Until you no longer think, you execute. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. So build systems that catch you when motivation drops. Build systems that move you when emotion stalls. Build systems that carry you through resistance. Because you can't control how you feel. But you can control the structure that defines how you act. When you understand that, you become unstoppable. So the next time you say, "I'll do it later," check your system. If your system allows delay, your system is weak. If your system removes choice, your system is strong. Strong systems eliminate decision fatigue. Weak systems invite emotion back in. Don't let emotion make decisions meant for discipline. Let your structure lead. Write this down. Discipline is the system that runs when motivation is gone. When you wake up tired, the system moves you. When the work gets hard, the system steadies you. When doubt appears, the system reminds you of the plan. That's how progress becomes predictable. That's how you win on autopilot. Remember Kobe. He didn't rely on motivation. He relied on design. His results were the echo of his systems. That's what you must build. A framework that turns action into default. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. So stop chasing emotion. Start engineering structure. Stop asking, how do I feel? Start asking, what does the system require? Because once the system is solid, your progress is inevitable. You've learned how to design structure stronger than emotion. Now it's time to face the biggest enemy of progress, perfection. You've built your system. Next, you'll learn how to keep moving even when it's messy. Chapter 5. Do it badly but do it anyway. Perfectionism looks noble. It sounds ambitious. It feels responsible. But perfectionism is a lie. Perfectionism is procrastination wearing a mask. It tells you you're not ready yet. It tells you need more time, more planning, more research. But underneath that disguise, it's fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of failure. Fear of not being enough. Perfectionism isn't about standards. It's about control. It's about avoiding the vulnerability of actually doing the thing. Because if you don't start, you can't fail. If you don't try, no one can judge you. And if you stay in planning mode, you can always pretend you're almost ready. But you're not. You're stuck. And stuck people don't build anything. You have to understand this truth. The greats didn't start perfect. They started messy. Every masterpiece began as a draft. Every athlete began uncoordinated. Every entrepreneur began uncertain. What made them masters wasn't their precision. It was their persistence. Done is discipline. Perfect is ego. Ego wants applause. Ego wants to look flawless. Discipline just wants to finish. That's the difference between creators and dreamers. Dreamers polish ideas forever. Creators release imperfect work, learn, and evolve. You have to choose which one you'll be. You don't get better by waiting. You get better by doing badly at first. That's the paradox of progress. To become great, you must first be willing to be terrible. Think about it. The first time a writer sits down, the words are clumsy. The first time a boxer steps into the ring, the punches are wild. The first time a speaker steps on stage, the voice trembles. But they show up again, and again, and again. Because consistency beats perfection every single time. Done is discipline. Perfect is ego. Perfection is a trap that kills momentum. It whispers, wait until it's just right. It seduces you with endless editing, tweaking, and doubting. And every moment you spend chasing perfection, you drift further from progress. You have to break that cycle. Here's the truth. No one remembers how perfect your start was. They only remember that you started. When Steve Jobs launched the first iPhone, it wasn't perfect. When Elon Musk built the first rocket, it failed, again and again. When Serena Williams picked up a racket as a child, her form was imperfect. But they acted. And action refines what fear would have forever delayed. You don't fix your flaws by thinking about them. You fix them by facing them. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards execution. Done is discipline. Perfect is ego. If you want mastery, you must first master this. Start ugly. Start unprepared. Start afraid. Start small. But start. Because the first step is the hardest, not physically but psychologically. You are not fighting effort, you are fighting ego. Ego says, I'll start when I'm ready. Discipline says, I'll start now, ready or not. Ego wants comfort. Discipline demands commitment. That's why the most powerful people in the world are not perfectionists. They're executors. They ship. They post. They publish. They act. They know that 70% done and delivered beats 100% perfect and unfinished. Think of writers like Stephen King. He writes every single day, not because every sentence is brilliant, but because the system demands it. Some books sell millions. Some don't. But the routine never changes. That's discipline. Or think of Michael Jordan. He missed more shots than most players ever took. He failed publicly, repeatedly, and relentlessly. But that's exactly why he succeeded. Because he didn't worship perfection. He worshipped repetition. Done is discipline. Perfect is ego. And ego has no place in your pursuit of mastery. Every moment you spend editing what hasn't been created yet, you're training hesitation. Every time you say, I'll release it when it's perfect, you're building fear. And every time you act anyway, even when it's rough, incomplete, and imperfect, you're training power. You have to let go of the illusion of the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. The perfect time will never arrive. The perfect plan will never appear. The perfect version of you will never feel ready. You have to start with what you have, where you are, right now. Because progress is built through imperfection. Progress is built through adjustment. Progress is built through feedback earned only by doing. You can't correct what you haven't created. That's why movement matters more than mastery. Because movement becomes mastery over time. Done is discipline. Perfect is ego. Your ego will resist this. It will tell you, this isn't your best work. It will tell you, people will judge you. It will tell you, wait until you can do it right. Ignore it. Ego is the voice of fear dressed as wisdom. Ego is comfort pretending to be high standards. But discipline doesn't wait for approval. Discipline acts and improves through exposure. You can't refine what doesn't exist. You can't edit what hasn't been built. Start messy. Start now. Then sharpen through repetition. That's how mastery is born. When you understand this, freedom begins. Because perfectionism is mental slavery, a cage built out of expectations. But action breaks that cage. The moment you move, you're free. The moment you publish, you're growing. The moment you do it badly, you're learning. The moment you act, despite imperfection, you win. Done is discipline. Perfect is ego. So stop waiting for flawless. Stop hiding behind planning. Stop letting your standards suffocate your start. Your first version will never be your best version, and that's the point. The first version is supposed to be bad. That's how you learn. That's how you evolve. Your only job is to begin. Because one imperfect action can teach you more than 1,000 perfect intentions. The world doesn't remember who hesitated. It remembers who built. It remembers who tried. It remembers who finished. Discipline is finishing what ego would have abandoned. So release the project. Post the video. Make the call. Write the page. Take the shot. Stop hiding behind perfection. Perfection is fear. Progress is courage. Done is discipline. Perfect is ego. And ego doesn't deserve to lead your life. You do. You have now reached the end of this blueprint. And by now you understand something powerful, that discipline isn't about emotion or perfection or permission. It's about choice. Repeated. Daily. It's about acting without readiness. It's about killing the negotiation. It's about building proof until identity transforms. It's about trusting your system when motivation disappears. And it's about showing up, imperfectly, relentlessly, until mastery becomes your default. That's the discipline blueprint. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel perfect. You just need to move. Because perfection fades. But progress compounds. Done is discipline. Perfect is ego. Now stop thinking. Start building. Start becoming. The blueprint is yours. Now live it.